sunduya shinonaya yu sunduya shinonaya yu sundu yanavaya yuvayo yenovaya nasana heyu shanonaya va shanonaya wa Yahweh Nduya shanonaya wa Yehunduya shanonaya wa Yenuwandoha Yehuwandoha Yenuhandoya shanonaya wa Yanavayahu Yanuanoya Yanuaya Nenosaya Wena Yantape Shanunaya fa Yuhave Shanunaya wa Yenu Sahante Yuhova Yahuwah Yahweh Yahuwah Yahweh Yanavayava Yanavayava Yanavayawa Yanavaye Santavayaha Yahweh 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 Yanavayahe Santava Yanahayo Yanavahayo Yanahayo Yanavahayo
Thank you, Imgard. That was beautiful. Ryan, could you lower this a little bit, I think? Because it sort of blocks my face for some people. And I can sit up a little bit. As long as I don't have. Yeah. Oh, I gotta watch the water. Don't want nothing. I don't want to be wet.
Is that any better?
I think that's fine. I won't have to turn my head, huh? What was she saying? Oh. Yeah, he'll fix it. I know a lot of you weren't here this morning for Anya's introduction. And I will try to cover a little bit, because I know the most interesting thing to you is the astral dimension and life there. I'm pretty sure that's it. From my knowledge and my experience with people, they're more interested in that aspect of my life. And the rest of it's in the books. And I'm here. Yeah, my soul incarnated on Venus about 350 of your Earth years ago. That's how long I've existed. Of course, I haven't been on Earth that long. But I am that old in this lifetime. I'm ancient. Anya compares me, since I had my stroke, to Yoda. Lovingly, she tells me I remind her of Yoda. Which I like, because he's a wonderful little soul. Anyway, I was incarnated on Venus, and I had lived on Venus even when it was a physical community, before they colonized the Earth, when it was young, because all the beings, human beings, the black, the white, the yellow, and the red, were brought here billions of years ago in huge motherships. They were given the guidance and the information from the spiritual realm that they had to bring human beings into this solar system. And so they left their home planets and got on this huge ship, and they traveled far, far out of this galaxy. I mean, far away. All these huge ships with all these people, several different ships, because you had one for each race of beings. And they all traveled to this galaxy and solar system in the Milky Way to bring human beings to this system. And when they first arrived, they chose Venus for the white race, the yellow race chose Mars, the black race Jupiter, and the red race Saturn. That was their original home planets. And they lived in this solar system, and they watched as the Earth was actually created and began its formation into a planet. And they all worked hard to bring different life forms from different systems, plants, minerals, animals, and they wanted to create a unique paradise on this new planet, Earth, because the Earth had so much water and it was just naturally beautiful. So they worked with all these life forms that they got voluntarily to come to Earth, and they volunteered to inhabit the Earth, and they created a beautiful ecological paradise on Earth by working in harmony together. And so this Earth was created out of the effort of millions of beings working hard to create a beautiful place for human beings to reside. And eventually, when their home planets here in this system no longer were inhabitable, they decided to come and colonize the Earth. And they started the first communities, Atlantis, Lemur, and all these places. And they brought human beings to Earth. So that is your heritage and your history. Actually, you are all star people. Your genetics and everything were given to you by ancestors from the other planets a long ago. And the Earth history is very diverse, and unfortunately, because of the negative influences that help control the Earth, it's been destroyed many times, a lot of societies. And so in my book, I write the unknown history and about how the human beings were divine and had contact with the other dimensions and spiritual elders, and they lost this ability because a race of beings came to Earth and wanted the technology from the Atlanteans, and they allowed them to come and visit and enter through the shield that they had prepared around the Earth. And but they wouldn't give the technology because it wasn't allowed. You have to have a certain consciousness in order to use this technology for the benefit of mankind, and can't be used for destructive purposes. And so this race of beings went into one of the hidden temples and stole some of the technology, and they used this technology. They come back and declared a war on the Atlanteans and the people here, and the people here was scrambling to exist, but on the other hand, they wouldn't fight, even in self-defense. So they destroyed their own cities and their technology to keep it out of the hands of these beings. And these were human beings too, from another dimension, another system. But eventually, they took the technology they had stole from these Atlanteans, and they used it to capture the people from that war that went into hiding, and to genetically divide the brain into two halves. So they left intact only the part that functions in the physical, and took away the mental telepathy and the communication to the higher dimensions. And these beings then had to learn language and communication, and they set up religions, and they divided the races and created slavery and all of this things that people experience now on Earth. So that's in the new book that we got on the table. In the unknown history, it explains that, so that you have a clear understanding of what happened. There's many things that happened before that even, but that's just a small part. And I was around then too, but I was born at this time on Venus, probably in the 1930s or something like that was my actual time that I was incarnated on Venus. And I was asked if I would volunteer to come to Earth and enter this little girl's family as her family member, because she was going to perish in an accident. and I would take her place, and her karma, I would live the rest of her life and go through her karma as well as my own, because I had a great debt to her from a previous lifetime on earth, where that she, in France, was beheaded in my place so I could continue my work. She was my twin sister. And so the spiritual masters allowed my soul to accompany her in her birth process on earth so that I could be imprinted with the same genetics as her, so that when I entered the family, I would have these genetics on earth in my physical body. So that's how I chose to come to earth. And before that, I lived in Teutonia, a small village on Venus, with my mother and my father. Shalwick is my mother, and my father was a scientist, and I wasn't very close to him, but he loved my mother more than anything. But my mother's karmic debt was that once that she had brought me into being on Venus, then she would transpire to a higher dimension. And my father didn't agree to this. He was too attached to her. So he couldn't stand to look at me because I reminded him so much of his loving wife. And so his brother and his wife decided to take care of me. My uncle Odin and my aunt Irina raised me and took care of me because they were childless. On Venus, when you have a child, they kind of create a society that's kind of a duplicate of the physical world, but more refined. And they physically don't have to eat because they absorb energy, but they can create food just for the pleasure of the taste and all that, in remembrance of being on earth. Fruits and certain things they loved. And you don't have sex, you just exchange love energy. And when a couple decides that they want to create a family, then the husband and wife will do a ceremony where they come together and stand very close together, and they do a mantra, and they call a soul to join their family unit. And then a soul comes in and resides in the mother and until a certain time when they're ready to be a life form on their own. They manifest a body, and our bodies they look very much physical, like our physical bodies here, but they're made of light and pure energy. So it's a lot different. So they call a soul, and she carries this soul, and then the child is born. And they have, of course, little corpses and cradles they put the babies in. It's very much like our societies here. And a child isn't forced to go to school except at a certain age when it's ready to learn on its own. It's individual choice. And then it goes to a city where we have all the temples of learning, and they have every temple is devoted to a certain subject. And it's a lot different than Earth society. And that is probably the most, the people love the most about the book, is that chapter about Venus. Because we have anti-gravity ballroom, and we can turn ourselves into a butterfly, and we can create our own environments. And there's no money, there's no jobs. We devote our whole time to creating things for human beings on earth to use that's necessary for life here. And so we have a lot of art, a lot of music, we inspire a lot of people on earth in the creative fields. And our clothes, we can design ourselves. I had a rainbow dress, a sunshine dress, and I loved dressing up in different clothes. And I miss it very much. And of course, on Venus, you can think yourself somewhere and automatically appear there. You don't have to walk or drive a car, but we do have bubble craft. They're a small craft where several people can go together as a unit just to travel maybe to a spiritual convention or whatever. And we have spiritual conventions once a year with our spiritual masters. And the spiritual master of Venus is Rame Nuri. He actually came from Mars, but he resides on Venus and teaches them the spiritual. And it was really wonderful living there. I really loved it very much. I had a bed that hang on chains, over in my room. It was like a big swing, a round bed. And they had vines with little flowers that grew up around, and the carpet was like grass with little bitty flowers. I had birds, I had waterfalls. It was amazing. Every house usually has a fountain or a waterfall indoors, and we have paintings. They change colors, and every color emits a sound. And the sound and the colors are always alternating. It's absolutely incredible. The things we can do with art. But that's for the future of Earth, I think. But anyway, you would love it. It's like heaven. It is heaven. It's where a lot of people go shortly after death. And we have a place there where a lot of our ancestors stay in this one place, and when souls are traumatized in their death process, they're taken to a healing place and put in their souls reside in like little baskets, and they're healed before that they go on to their next life. And of course, before every life, you view what your past life was, and you see what you want to experience in your next incarnation, and what you have to learn, and your place with the family that allows this to happen. So your whole life, everything that happens to you is chosen before you are born on earth. So no matter what kind of illness or anything you have, it's something that is valuable for your soul. It's not a punishment. If you have cancer or anything, it's a very brave thing to do, because you want to get this behind you so you can go on. Because soul's whole purpose for being on earth is to experience everything possible. Every sex, every race, every warriors, killers, murderers, artists, beauties, great movie stars, everything. You have to experience everything possible in the human state before you are evolved enough to leave it all behind. And the earth and the physical realm is solely for that purpose. I explain that in my book about the different planes, about how soul came to earth, and the whole purpose of soul and the whole reason of being a human being. But first, before you were a human, you were a mineral. And you lived for thousands of years experiencing every state that a mineral can be before you're finished. And each incarnation as a mineral, you have to serve a certain purpose as that mineral before you can evolve to the next state. It's the way it is. A soul serves a purpose, and then it evolves higher. And you go through the whole mineral realm, and then finally you evolve to the stage of the plant realm. And then you go through the same thing again, being a plant, existing in every form, serving purposes, and finally you reach the animal. And then the animal stage, you go through the whole thing, and eventually you're a house pet or some pet of some person, and you study a person so that you know how to behave when you're a person. That's the whole purpose of house pets. and animals that are close to humans. But we've all been minerals, we've been plants, we've been animals. And when you reach the human stage, it's as high as you can go in this world. And then you are the caretaker for all these other life forms because you need them to exist here. You have to have minerals and plants, animals for your sustenance and existence on earth. And that's their whole purpose. Animals and plants, they voluntarily come to earth and serve the purpose to nourish the human being so eventually they themselves can be a human being. So it's a beautiful, wonderful process that God has created. And you know why God did this? Because God loved itself so much. And it's such a great power. And it said, I want to create something just because I love myself so much, so I will never cease to exist. And so it created all the worlds and the souls, and it sent the souls into the different aspects of life, which is the mineral, plant, animal, and human. But the soul is eternal. It exists forever. Never, never ceases to exist. It's a little spark of this God force. And this God force is the source from which we came, which all things come. And so it created everything in non-ending cycles. And everything procreates from itself. And therefore, it exists forever and ever in non-ending cycles. And so, God exists forever through us. And so, it's all created from love. Love is the basis for our existence. And love is the greatest gift that we ever had except for our free will. And God created us with the free will to choose our way and what we experience. So, everything we do is our own choice. So we choose to experience what we want to experience. But we experience the darkness in order to know the light. But we don't become the darkness. But we experience it so we can know that's not what we are. We're not that, but we experience it. And then we say, well, I'm going to continue with this light and make it brighter for other souls. But we need the darkness in order to understand the light. It's like a little soul came to earth and it was a little bit disturbed and said, I want to go to earth and forgive people. And God said, you don't have to forgive nobody. Souls are perfect. They don't have no reason to be forgiven. And it was a little bit disappointed. And it thought, well, but I want to go to earth and I want to forgive people. And this other little soul said, I'll go with you and I'll do such horrible things to you that I will allow you to forgive me. And he said, you would do that for me? And of course he was happy. And he said, only one thing. You must remind me that I am soul and I'm not these things that I do. I'm always soul. And if you forgive me, it's okay. But don't let me forget that I'm not those things. They're just things that I experience. So that's the story of a little soul come to earth. I love that story about the soul. And we're all souls experiencing here. And the ugly and the negative are a part of God's creation. And we have to realize, in the eyes of our soul, there is no negative and positive. There is only value in every experience. And so we have to love each other no matter what. That is unconditional love. And this unconditional love is the reason we were created. And we must love people regardless of what they do or how they act, because that's not what they are. That's some behavior, That's something they picked up, but it's not what they are. They're a perfect, beautiful soul. And they're lost and they're trying to find their way, and we must love them and help them. And so we have to look at things this way. Hi, Rob. So anyway, I learned a lot by being on Earth, for sure. And of course, I didn't choose a perfect family, a wealthy family, or anything, because you have to learn through experience. And if I was rich and pampered and everything, I wouldn't have much compassion for anyone. You know what I mean? If everything just came to me so easily. So you have to realize that struggling gives you the ability to have compassion for other people. And that wealth lies in your soul and in what God can give you. It's not in the material world. The material world is something we use while we're here, but it's no benefit when this life is over. And a lot of people are afraid of dying, but it's only a transformation from one energy existence to another form, and you're actually graduating to a better place. Of course, you may have to come back because you may have more lessons to learn, or you may have something that you didn't experience yet. So that's your choice. Like I said, you do have a choice. But sometimes you have to come back because you have to experience everything possible. If you can really think about it, you've been here a long time. Your existence has already been thousands of incarnations, and you just don't remember. And what we're trying to do with the transformation is to allow you to have this memory that's carried by your soul, connected to the mind, so that you consciously can remember. And that's what we want to do. And I told everybody that Venusians have hands shaped like flames. So all the fingers curve toward the middle finger. And it looks like a flame. And I mentioned that in the book. It's mentioned. So I'm showing you what it looks like. Venusian hands. But they're very broad. They're workers' hands. Very broad in the palm. That they narrow up to a flame. And I thought that might be interesting because people mention that because it's written in the book. So perhaps some of you have Venusian characteristics. Some of you can, because they are your ancestors. Somewhere in your DNA there are Venusian qualities, or Martian, or whatever. And the Martian people are known for their technology, and the black people were known for their deep, resonating singing voices and their rhythm. They could create beautiful harmony and music and stuff. They brought a lot of music to the earth through their existence. And then the red race was mostly connected to nature. There's the American Indians included. And so they very much are in tune with nature and creating all kinds of medicine and clothes and stuff from natural things around them. And they also have culture and music that is very beautiful. And I think that every race adds something special to our existence here. And I'm very happy that on Earth, because it's such a mixture, because on Venus we only have one race of beings. and it's a little boring in a way. I hate to say it because we all have, light hair and light eyes and tall and thin. And yeah, there's no diversity. On Earth, I was really fascinated by the different sizes and shapes and colors of people. I was like, wow. It was wonderful for me. And the adventure, when I came, I was so excited about living on Earth and learning things from other people. I didn't realize that it was such a difficult place. That I had to learn later. But when I first came, all I could think of was my excitement about coming and meeting different people. And then I got here and I found out, but they're not all kind. That there is people who abuse other people, and of course I didn't understand that, but I experienced it. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But you know what? It's something they have to learn. It's a valuable experience for them. And unfortunately, there's people on the other end, it's not so exciting for them. But on the other hand, if we can see it, that they're having an experience, they're going through an experience, it's not really how they are, it's just something they're experiencing, then we can forgive and forget. And that's what I learned, to love them in spite of it, no matter what. That's the only thing you can do to save yourself. But it's not easy. But I'm happy that I'm here, and I have 4 children. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and they are all on television with me years ago on TV. My mother came from Venus on the Jerry Springer show. Some people may know that, have seen it on YouTube. But that's how it was. People were very skeptical. And they made fun of you. And I had to tolerate that. And I had not to get angry, but to try to convince them. And the only way I can convince them is just telling them what I know and what I am. And whatever they think doesn't change anything. I don't care if you believe me or not. It doesn't change who I am. And the information is more important than where I came from. And I came here primarily to teach people that there are beings on other planets who are your ancestors, and they're still in touch with you, and to make people aware of their true heritage, because it is knowledge that belongs to them. Everyone should know that. And also to teach people about the soul, that you are not this physical body, you're a soul residing in this body. And this is a temporary state. And it's not so important how if you're perfect or if you're vegetarian or you're spiritual, that's irrelevant. It's important to be a loving human being. And whatever you eat is your choice. It's not wrong or right. It's not better to be a vegetarian, because the animals also serve their purpose, and that's what they're here for. And they know that as long as you appreciate and love them, that's all that matters, if you're thankful. And it's not that you don't look at the cow and say, hey, you look like you got some good steaks there. You look at the cow and say, hey, how are you today? Are you enjoying your existence as a cow? I always talk to animals. Always. But I never refer to them as food. Not in their presence. Even though they know that's what they're here for, it's just I don't want to be rude. I don't want to say you look like a fine pork chop. to a pig. Poor little pig. Pigs are so cute, but I love bacon. And I love pork chops. I like meat. And I eat it with joy, and I eat it with thankfulness. Because this nourishment is from, of course I don't have to have it 3 times a day, every day, but I do enjoy it every once in a while, and I want to do it with a clear conscience and feeling fine, because this animal served its purpose, and now it can eventually be a person through its sacrifice for me, or for us. And I think this is such a wonderful thing. One time I was the cow, or one time I was the pig. So I had to serve this purpose too. But it allowed me to be what I am today. So it's okay to have meat, it's okay to have vegetables, long as you love them and you say, thank you for your existence and nourishment I receive from you. That's all we need. And then you're fine. And I don't believe in judgment of any kind. I think it's terribly wrong to judge one another, because we are all equal. And nobody is above another. Nobody's better. I just have more knowledge that I have retained, but I'm not better than anyone else. I'm just a being that's sharing earth with you. But I've existed a long time. I have a lot of information which I will willingly share, but I'm not better. And I don't want to judge anybody, and I do smoke 2 or 3 cigarettes a day or so, and I love beer, and I like wine. I like to enjoy myself, and you know, God wants us to enjoy everything we can on earth, because you can't enjoy it when you don't have a physical body. So you have to enjoy it here, as long as you're not interfering with someone else. I mean, I know cigarettes now are anti-social. They used to be social. And I don't want to offend nobody. I don't want to smoke and blow smoke in somebody's face that don't like it. I wouldn't do that. But I do enjoy my cigarette. I started smoking at age 52. A little bit older than most people. Because I wanted to know what it was. And I actually enjoy it. That's why I smoke. Just because I enjoy it. No other reason. But I would never throw a cigarette butt anywhere except in the garbage or an ashtray. Because, no, I just don't like to do that. Nowhere, not even standing on someone's sidewalk. I put it out and put it back in my cigarette carton until I get to a garbage. Because you want to be respectful. And people don't like cigarette butts laying around on the sidewalks and places. But I know a lot of people are happy when I tell them that. They don't have to sneak and smoke or feel bad. And I know they can enjoy it in my presence with me, and it's all fine. And same for alcohol. I love to have a little drink of wine or something every once in a while. And I want people to enjoy and be relaxed and not feel guilty or feel like you're being bad. Don't feel bad, no. Enjoy yourself. I hope you enjoy my party tonight. And I want everybody to dance, because I love to dance, and now I can only move one leg. But I will certainly enjoy watching you, it's for sure. I danced at workshops and seminars for years. I love dancing. Of course, I did free dancing, you know, interpretive dancing they call it. But in my soul, I can still dance. And in my mind, I can still do, to the rhythm, I can still go. I got my one good leg. And if we have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Oh, we're going to do the questions on the microphone again, so for recording, we can get that covered.
And what is the young man who gave us the crystal's name? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for the beauty and for allowing us to share them.
Omnic, thanks very much for your book. I really enjoyed your first book. I'm looking forward to the rest of the trilogy. My question is, did you ever have lower astral beings on Venus? And what does God look like there? Is there any manifestation of God there? Thanks.
No, there is no manifestation of God. God is in everything. If you want to see God, you look at a drop of water or into another human being's eyes or any living being, and there you will see God. God never created an image for himself because he didn't want to limit himself to an image. And we don't have lower astral beings on Venus because we're a higher consciousness and awareness level that I existed on. But there are lower levels where there are lower entities that are very dangerous. And you got to be careful. So when you soul travel, make sure you have your spiritual protectors and guides so that you're protected. But if you use the hue, you're automatically protected.
Hello, Des, there we go. Omnic, I was interested, you talked about the different races that came here billions of years ago, the red, yellow, black, and white. Did they know each other? Was it kind of guided by the divine creator who's kind of populated the system? Or how did they all come here at the same time, or they come here of years apart and come to know each other?
No, they came at the same time. They were all guided by the higher beings and told to come to this place, and they all were told how to prepare and how to come.
Were they from this galaxy or some from outside the galaxy?
Outside our galaxy.
And you mentioned the beings that came here and wanted to take the technology. Were they from a particular system? Was this?
Yeah, they were from the Pleiadians.
The Pleiades, okay.
Yeah, but the Pleiadians are diverse. They have the negative and the positive beings. They have the higher evolved beings, and they have the ones who are not so highly evolved.
Were these, some of these Pleiadians were, could you talk a little bit about, we hear the reptilians, and not to judge any one particular genetic racial phenotype in the universe, but we seem to have a lot of information, and I think you mentioned it in your book, Pure Love, a little bit. If you could, what inspired these beings to be this way? Is most of the universe very positive, or is there negativity and wars going on all the time in the universe, or is that kind of a localized thing?
No.
Is that caused from some sort of default or a fall?
It's just part of when the negative energy manifests in the physical, they have an aggressive and controlling energy. And that's just the normal energy in the physical realm. So the whole physical realm has problems in this area of control and not control. And so the wars and everything have developed out of the resistance to control and the ones who want to control. And of course the negative tendencies for destruction is the negative forces try to really put their energy into human beings and to create this destructive nature. And this is what we have to overcome. We overcome that by being pure spiritual beings and concentrate on the creation and creativity rather than destruction. And the reptilians, I mentioned it in the unknown history, they had a war over the earth because the reptoids and the dinoids were great giant beings with two legs, but they had the appearance of reptilians and dinoids, and they had high intelligence, but they wanted to rule the earth and to rob it of all of its natural minerals and beautiful things that the other beings had brought here. And so there was a war took place on earth, which is mentioned in there. And when the war was over, the earth was surrounded with a nuclear cloud because they had these weapons at that time. And is this on? And so the earth was surrounded by nuclear cloud and radiation for a long time. And other beings came to try to cleanse the atmosphere, and they landed here and they couldn't leave because they would spread the radiation, and they mutated into Neanderthals, and then the dinoids in them mutated into the huge creatures that roam the earth. It's all mentioned in the history of the unknown history. I mention all of this because it's history about the earth that gives you a little more information about what happened and how they guided a comet eventually and crashed it into the ocean to cleanse the earth of these beings and create an ice age to clean the earth, to freeze all the radiation and poison so that they could dispose of it, annihilate it in outer space. And then once again the earth was clean and started over, and that's when they brought the colonies. So it's all mentioned in my book, the little book out there on the table. The whole story's in there. But it's a very, very complex and very nice story. It's nice, but of course, it's not nice what happened. But it's interesting is that you know a lot about the history, and you can compare it to the Bible and to history of Earth and get a little more information.
Hi, happy birthday first.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about, first, why there's no sex in Venus? Why is that? Why there's no sex in Venus? Like, why they not having sex? But the other question was...
Why did I come to the United States?
Oh, no, you said that they don't have sex in Venus.
Why no sex in Venus?
Oh.
Sex, like recreation sex.
Because
right?
we don't have a physical body at this time. When we were a physical society, we had sex, of course.
Good, all right. Yeah.
When we had a physical body, we could have sex.
Okay, cool. I thought it was
And
just a rule.
I enjoyed sex too.
Okay.
Otherwise, I couldn't have had children.
All right, good. But I wanted to know that.
But they exchange the same energy that you feel during this connection. You can feel it on Venus by sending energy and exchanging energy, the same feeling.
Oh, nice.
Ecstasy and all that is there.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's possible to feel that. All right.
Yeah, it's possible to have the feeling,
Oh, nice, nice.
and the connection.
But I was going to ask you about the intervention about those beings that were trying to load down our genetic code and make it more dumb kind of thing, you know, when they intervene and trying to take the technology and all those times when the Atlanteans. what part played the Anunnaki back on those times? Did the Anunnaki ever intervene on us on any time in history?
No, and I've just started hearing about them lately, and they have nothing to do with us or you, because you are free of karma now. In 1999, when we absolutely were sure that the transformation was in process, man was freed of his individual karma. So the only karma that can be created is something that you do now that you don't atone for. So you're all free. You don't have to come back. Nobody can make you. Not for karmic reasons. If you come back, it's only experiences that you haven't had.
Nick, as you were talking today, you talked about animals being a food source for us and that they're serving their purpose, part of their purpose for being here on Earth. And then I got to thinking while you were saying that there are other races here that have a control agenda that use us as a food or energy source for them. And what I began to think was that maybe there are a lot of us here. I also thought of your story about the little soul. And so what I was thinking is, are the reason that some of us or all of us here gathered on Earth under the influence and control of these negative races that are using us as a food source, are we here to help be an instrument in teaching them compassion?
Of course, we're supposed to be an example, and we're supposed to share and raise the consciousness of man. That's our whole purpose. But as far as I understood, our ascended masters, the spiritual masters, have connected all of the hidden spiritual temples on earth with a band of energy that prevents any negative aliens from coming to earth and doing anything against anybody's will. They're not allowed to do that unless the human being has individually made an agreement with them on their own. But they're not allowed to interfere or to take advantage of human beings anymore. It's not allowed. The transformation is in process, and these are laws that forbid this from happening. So you're all protected, you're all fine. There's nothing going to happen to you because we want to protect and to help the humans evolve back to the original state that they were when they first were brought here. And that's what the transformation is about. New chakras are being created. Your DNA is changing. You'll have high-pitched sounds in your ears. You'll feel dizzy. You'll feel your vision might be a little bit blurry sometimes. This is all the transformation process happening. But in the meantime, there is energy from motherships that are flowing to the earth, and there's energy from the other dimensions that are being sent here to help and assist with the transformation process so that people can transform very gently and easily into a higher being. And eventually, you will exist on a different dimension, and you'll serve a different purpose. Earth will be a learning place, but people can manifest the physical body instead of going through the birth process. It'll be, and the death process, it'll all be choice. So you'll choose how long you live and what kind of body and everything. will be totally different. And it's in my book, all that is in there. And it gives you information about how to balance these effects that you feel from the transformation. And yeah, it's all good stuff. I did workshops and seminars for years on this, but it takes a lot more time than I really feel I can handle to teach you all this stuff.
Is this something new, or was this also the dynamics going on during Atlantis?
It was started a long time ago when we seen that all the societies were getting to a certain point, and then wars would break out and destruction, and whole cultures would be wiped out. So we decided to prevent this from happening so that your cultures could remain and you can keep them alive, and in the future pass on these things to other people. Because the cycles of destruction was over and over. It was like cycles of building up societies and then complete annihilation. And we said we can't continue this way. The earth will not sustain itself. And so we had to interfere. And that means eliminating your technology and totally introducing you to new technology. So the computers, everything will be eliminated eventually. But not tomorrow. Don't panic. It's not tomorrow. But it will happen because we have to eliminate the monetary system and the military. A lot of things are going to end because the world can't have harmony and balance with this kind of systems. There has to be an end to the controlling and the manipulation and the money and the inequality, etc. But it has to happen on a basis where the people voluntarily change their way of existence. Like on Venus, we walked away from the cities and the big factories and so on, and started living in small communities and small villages. But it has to be that you voluntarily do this. And the ones who depend on the money and the technology, etc., will of course commit suicide or leave the earth, whatever, and go prey on some other poor planet somewhere. But that happened to Earth too. It will happen, but there will be mass suicide. It will get worse before it gets better, but that's nowhere in the near future. It's still going through the change, and we have a meditation process every Wednesday for 10 minutes. You give 10 minutes of your time and focus on the transformation, and we have assistance from my ancestors and all of the ascended masters and the living beings from other planets who are around here in spaceships. They're all sending energy on Wednesday to the earth. And wherever you are in the different time zones on earth, you give 10 minutes, and so we create a continuous 24-hour process of meditation, because they do it in different time zones, and you choose your own time whenever you have free time. And just send love and blessings and support to transformation. It's called the Operation Peace Program. I created this in 1999 or 2001 or something. It was put on the internet. I think it's still there. And I created a CD, a meditation CD, which is outside, which has a meditation journey from the physical level to the God worlds and back, accompanied by music which I created and composed, and all these volunteers from all over the world who came with different musical instruments and participated. And I chose the music for each dimension that match the mantra and raise the vibrations. It's an experience. But it took me 3 years to do this. It's a wonderful project. But so I created this soul journey, which is outside. And many people have experiences when they take this journey. It's really long. I think it's about an hour. But it's worth it. Because it's every mantra that the Venusians use for their journey, for the soul actually to travel to the different dimensions above the physical. It starts off with the physical mantra and the physical sound, which is drums, and it evolves to higher and higher levels. It's something really unique, and you'll love it. It's out there. Has my face on it. I look like I got an Egyptian hairdo. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, sorry. When I interviewed John Lear, he talked about how every planet actually has its own filtering system that works in conjunction with the sun or any central star in the solar system, whereby the planet's atmosphere transfers energy from the sun into a form that is suitable for life. In other words, mainstream science has lied to us when they say a planet needs to be in a Goldilocks zone to support life. In other words, he means if you take a NASA rocket ship and fly it to Venus and land on Venus, you're not going to find the 900-degree pools of methane and sulfuric acid that they tell us. You're actually going to find a system that's suitable for us to stand on. Is that true?
I'm not positively sure of this. I just know that at one time, Mars and Venus were suitable for human life. And now I'm not positive. I think they only exist on the astral level. And if you go there in a ship, I can tell you what you'd find. I know that they sent probes to Venus and they perished, before they could really get readings and pictures and things. So I'm not sure. We depleted our atmosphere there by experiments and so on through our evolution. So we know what it's all about, and we're trying to prevent this here. But you know more about that than I do. You're more scientific.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? It's on? It's on? Okay. Happy birthday, Omnic. We share a birthday. My birthday was yesterday, and yours is today. So I'm glad to hear.
Really?
Yes. I'm
Well,
glad to hear.
happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Make sure you have a drink with me.
I will. I will.
And I want a hug and a kiss, too.
Okay. You got it. No questions asked.
Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to ask, before you came to Earth, did you have an experience with the Chimeras, specifically, I don't know, Sonic Chimera? Just a curious question.
No, not really.
Okay.
But I lived on earth with Christ. At one time I was one of his disciples when he was on earth. And it's in my book as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm wondering if you were unconditional loving from the beginning. You had to go through an initiation process or training or anything like that, because I want to be unconditional loving towards everybody, but I'm not there. So I'm wondering what you recommend.
I think it's something that I brought with me. It's something that my soul carried. But I'm a very old soul. This is my last time on earth. So when this life is over, I will be on a higher dimension doing work with other souls. But it comes when you can look at somebody and blank out the physical form and just see the beautiful, shining soul. What I see is every soul is like a unique jewel. And every aspect, every emotion, and every experience you have has created a certain facet that makes your jewel so unique and perfectly beautiful. And all I can feel is love when I look at you. That's all I can see, and that's all I can feel. I feel and see pure love. All of you are so beautiful, really. And I know some of you from previous lifetimes, and it's like always like a family reunion for me to be here in your presence. And I feel the love and appreciation, and I only see beauty. That's all I see. And I hope eventually that you can see and feel what I do, because it's really wonderful, believe me. And I meet with some of you in the dream state, and I know I've experienced many times, many places with you people, and enjoyed being with you and loving you. And I really am so happy that I was invited here, because after my stroke, I really don't go many places, and Rob invited me, and I made a special effort to come. Hello, babe.
That sparkles.
Hey, sparkles. Yeah.
Thank you, Omnic.
Yeah, I made a special effort to be here, but it's unusual for me because I'm really not a person that roughs it or camps or anything. So to be here is very unusual for me, but I'm happy, and he took good care of me.
I want to thank you for coming. Of course. Hey, Omnek, I wanted to, there were a couple things there, and in the Bible, in the higher dimensions, they talk about the lion laying down with the lamb, and we do have conditions here, of course, where the animals aren't actually happy in their existence, and it's an unfortunate, and some of our food is actually poisoned on purpose with antibiotics and stuff.
Aww.
So eating the meat obviously isn't as healthy if the animal was free. I'm kind of curious on the, and I know the Ascended Masters and the traditional teachings of the Great White Brother Sisterhood, not the Ku Klux Klan. White stands for purity, but as traditionally, it was recommended to, before initiations, to not eat meat and stuff like that. If you could comment a little bit on the higher dimensions. I was told that in certain physical planets, they put their hand under a thing that reads exactly the minerals that they need, and then a liquid vegetable and plant extract, and so on. Some worlds are vegetarian. I was kind of curious, is that something that we're coming towards in the transformation, that won't be necessary?
In the transformation, it'll be different, but now we reside in the physical, and it's a positive and negative environment. And so in order to be balanced, you have to incorporate some of the negativeness into your system for it to be balanced. You can't live pure and special in an environment like this one. You have to have something to protect you, and it's very difficult. So you have to find your balance. Everybody has to find their balance. I can't tell you how to find that because it's up to you. But if I were on a different planet, I would totally exist in a different way because it would be more natural with the surroundings. It's Earth that I'm on, and I live by the Earth standards. You can't be purely positive and exist here. When you reach that point, then you no longer are in the physical world. So while you're here, you've got to accept and incorporate some of this negativity into your body. It's like smoking actually helps me to be more balanced and adjusted because it lowers the vibrations a little bit and makes it easier for me to concentrate and communicate with people. It's like it creates this negative energy within my body, which brings me down to the level where I can communicate with people around me. But that's for me. And the drinking is also, it's like, well, I partake because I'm on earth and I exist in your environment. But I wouldn't recommend it, of course, if you're going to a higher dimension or a higher planet. You'd have to exist by their ideas and understanding of nourishment, of course.
Hello, Nick. I'm so grateful to be here. I came all the way from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I remember sitting in my apartment. I read all 3 of your books, and I was sitting in my apartment, and right after I read all 3 of your books, I saw on Facebook that you were going to be in Shasta, and it was around the time I come. Almost every year I try to come around this time, so I was just so amazed that you were going to be here.
Aww.
And I traveled really far, and I've stayed in Shasta for a few weeks camping, and it's been challenging, but I'm just so glad I stayed long enough to see you.
Oh, I'm happy you're here too. Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting a hug later.
I would love a hug.
I love hugs. I'll stand up here and I'll hug everybody that wants one when I'm finished here. And after I go to the toilet. Then I'll get as many hugs as I can because I love hugs. It's exchanging soul energy. So for me, it's special.
And I also have one question.
Yes.
I know, and I follow the teachings of Saint Germain, and I know that they've talked about how you were created in the Great Central Sun, and that we were created as twin flames. And so I guess I'm trying to understand like the whole concept of how because I thought we originally were created as light beings. And I have heard that dolphins, fairies, and certain animals can become ascended beings, but I'm trying to understand like how we've evolved from from minerals to animals to the idea of also twin flames.
Well, it took thousands of years. You exist in this form of creation, but it takes thousands of years. It's not something that goes very fast. And it's a purpose so that you feel connected to these life forms and you have empathy and compassion and love for them and are protective of them because you were them. So it's important.
Are there twin flames? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I've heard about that, but I'm not an expert on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I fit in a small suitcase. I am very loving and caring, and I don't eat too much. So my question is this: can I go with you when you pass away?
If it's your time.
You understand what I ask? Can I go with you when you pass away? I don't eat too much. I'm very loving and caring, and I can squeeze in a small suitcase.
I think we'll have one more question, and I'm going to warn you all here. Last year, we waited till the end, and I hope you'll bear with me. I would love to have a group photo. Wouldn't that be nice? I'd like to maybe get someone to stand up there, and if we could all maybe turn our chairs. It's going to be a little bit of a drama at the end here before dinner, but I'd like to have us all kind of squish into the center and have a nice big group photo for a memory. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, thank you very much. Let's do a couple more questions. We have another presentation with Omnek tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be a little shorter, and we'll have more questions because it's really fascinating, I know. So we're going to go to dinner. We'll take maybe one more question now, and then we'll do more tomorrow, okay?
Thank you, Omnek. No, just one question. Omnek, could you please share with us what's your point of view about Jesus?
Yeah. Jesus is a very special being, and he brought a certain consciousness and awareness to earth. He was teaching about love and understanding, and I wrote in my book because I met with him, and he is being held because so many people do everything in his name. Like in the name of Christ, they baptize their children. I mean, some people, everything is done in the name of Christ. And Christ really wants you to take responsibility for things that you do so that he is released and can evolve himself. He resides on the causal in a place, it's heaven. The Christian heaven has been created by the thought force of all the human Christians. They've created a heaven, and Christ resides there. He can't go any higher until people release him and take responsibility and don't do everything in his name. That was actually created by the Romans to hold him, because they knew that. And they put that passage in the scriptures. That was not from Christ, that you do everything in my name if you believe in me. They did that because they knew they wanted to hold him to prevent him from returning. So I wrote about it in my book, and I appreciate you asking. So I hope that clears it up a little bit.